The first is this mindset of lifetime value. And the second one, which is always being of service, I'm going to bundle them together and we're going to kind of talk about this because my understanding of kind of selling in the commercial space is it's an always ever. It's not a one-off. There's always going to be work. And so with that kind of scenario, if you will, I really would invite people to not think about just the next deal. I'm going to tell a story that kind of hopefully explains this a little bit. One of the sectors I do a lot of work in and have for a long time is the live events industry. So if you've ever been to a conference, these are the guys with the cameras and they mic you and the lights, and they're the ones that make the magic happen that day. Well, what's nice about events is they're every year, right? Our annual shareholders meeting, our annual kickoff, right? Quarterly, whatever. So they have the same concept that there's always, once you find a buyer, there's always a need for them to buy. So I'm trying to kind of draw that parallel. So I'm running a sales meeting with about 5 sales guys. And part of a sales meeting, and this might be a good pro tip, is if you have other people selling for you, your sales meetings can kind of be more like a working session. How do we get into action in this meeting as a team? So we're all there having this working session. And I said, who's got a deal that's stuck? This guy raises his hand. What's going on? He goes, well, I met this meeting planner. Meeting planners buy this service. They're the buyer. And they have a meeting planning company. They'd be perfect for us. Like we could do a ton of deals forever. I said, okay, how'd it go? Well, we met at this group. We email back and forth. I really think I've got rapport. It seems like they could be a good fit. Super. What's the problem? Well, she sent me an RFP and I answered it and I haven't heard back. And it's been 3 weeks. So I kind of go to the team. Well, what would you all do? And they give you the typical check. Have you texted her and said, do you have any questions? Have you emailed her and said, just checking in? Have you decided, the stuff where it's kind of like low value and you start to feel needy. And this is when you start to go, I don't want to be this guy. So I said to this guy, I said, hey, are you playing for the event or the relationship? Didn't take him real long. He said, the relationship. I said, okay. The other mindset is being of service. How am I always of service? And being of service isn't just Johnny on the spot. Hey, do you need me? Do you need me? It's like truly understanding someone's world and meeting them there. So I said to this salesperson, I said, do you have any event pictures of other events? Do you have any favorite venues where you've seen like people have really successful events? I said, yeah. I said, why don't you send her an email or give her a call and be like, hey, sending you some photos of this event we did recently. Hopefully there's some inspiration for some of your events as you start to plan next year. And I intentionally said next year because I wanted that meeting planner to not think, oh, he's trying to get my event right now. He's trying to be of service to me for that lifetime value. And once he had that aha, it took all the pressure of like, God, I got to close. And therefore I start showing up kind of desperate, or we get in our heads, and it reframed it to be, what are the things that I can do to constantly build value? And so I'm going to take that example and apply it to this commercial example. Maybe you're meeting these folks at networking events or chamber events, or maybe it's a referral in, right? Like some guy you used to work with moved from this company to the next, and he's willing to take you out to lunch with one of the project managers. There's probably something like that in this world. I would just say when you meet that person, don't say, hey, would you have anything coming up right away? Try to just do that iceberg thing. What is their life like? What's the company going to be doing in the next 12 months? What are the challenges? Are they having tough time staffing? Maybe they're having tough time staffing and somebody looking for a job and you can now help put somebody in that company, right? But it's just changing our mindset that we're playing for lifetime value. We're trying to show up in different ways to create value other than just solving their immediate need.
That's wonderful.
No, that is great. I think it's, what's the saying? Shortcuts lead to dead ends. I think just not playing for the deal never really suits the long term. And I think the more long-term mindset you have in business, the better you're going to have, the more success you're going to have. And I think, Martin, we talk about this all the time. It's really the reason why you're only looking for the deal oftentimes is because you're under a lot of stress, because you have to get this deal to fund the next job, because you have to get this deal to meet payroll. And so if the more you can have a long-term approach in all areas of, not just taking money out of the business, not just trying to win the job right now, not making short-term decisions, but making long-term decisions, the better you're going to be able to do things like this and take a always be of service mindset.
That I love that, because I was trying to think, I mentioned just in passing when we were going along, always be closing, the movie, Coffees for Closers, always be of service, because always be closing ain't going to do it.
And Martin, you probably like this one. I was talking to Chris Griffin the other day. He was on our show. He said, always be billing. Guy. Always be billing. Because a lot of times people wait 60 days to invoice or whatever. It's like, yeah, that's your problem.
That's an internal facing
yes,
mantra,
that's an internal
not the external
phrase.
It runs a little bit counter, but one of the most fun things, I had a guy talk to me about it, and I've done this before. When people call me about coaching, I just do not worry about it. There's a reason you called. Something painful, or you got an ambition. What is it? Help me see your dream. And they do. They'll tell you. And honestly, it's almost always the same. More time for our more free time, less stress, more money, delegate, all these kind of things. But the guy says, tried this one time. I said, what are 5 things you should be doing that you're not doing? And they list 5 things. I go, of those, which would have the biggest impact today? Most important to you now. They named one. I said, well, let's go do that. And they go, you're hired.
That's great coaching, but it's true.
It's just like, what's bothering you, man? And then as you get to know them and you see things that maybe their level of business expertise doesn't cover their financials, which we talk about all the time, well, you can teach, but they come in they go, well, these 5 things I know I ought to be doing. Which one's the most important? This one. Well, how about we get started on that? Yeah, good idea. It all came 100% from them.
I have a similar kind of little mantra where I play this game and I say, hey, who's your best customer? Who would be your best customer? And sometimes people are like, well, I don't really know. And I go, okay, imagine you just got on a plane and you're in a first class seat and it's going to be a beautiful flight. I don't want you to think about that. It's a beautiful flight. You're in a beautiful seat. And the next best customer sits down next to you and goes, gosh, I love talking to people on flights. And they've invited you to have a conversation. Who is that person? And sometimes they'll go, oh, I know exactly who it is. It's Mary Beth at blah, 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 blah. And I'll be like, guess what my next question is going to be? Why haven't we talked to Mary Beth? Why haven't we reached out to try to talk to her if you already know who that person is? Mm-hmm. And if you don't, it's a great exercise to be like, oh, wait a minute. Where can I put some intentional focus back to what you said? What's that one person? What's that one account? What's that one thing that I put my energy toward? And if I'm successful, it has a big leverage or fulcrum effect, right? It amplifies things.